Hello? Alright. Good enough. Hello there, gentlemen. Hello there, gentlemen. Just moving you down to the town hall thingy. Open. Should be done in a jiffy. Alright, I'm already through the E's and heading to the D's. Hello there. Perfect. Perfect. Alright. Quite a lot of people around here. We already have the Twitch running. So you can see the presentations there, and it will be recorded in case anyone wants to see later. Link posted. We'll post it in the announcement. So if anyone wants to know a bit more, it will be there. So we're just gonna give 5 minutes for whomever needs to still join. I'll keep an eye first on the Q&A that we have at slido.com. You can find it in the description of the operation. If you haven't put your questions, you can actually put a question there, or you can vote to the existing questions. We will respond to questions in order of the ones that have more votes. Thus, the ones more popular amongst you. And the format will be quite simple. We've unfortunately had to mute the room just to make sure that there's some kind of order and we actually can communicate. So what we'll do is we'll do a brief presentation about what's Noble Defense about. Most of you already know about it. Then we'll go on to our new and revamped Noble Defense pathways, and finally we have a very beautiful surprise from Admiral Ingera that he will be presenting himself, and I'll be just his PowerPoint bitch, moving the slides around as he speaks. Let me also get into the chat of this channel in case there's something live that needs to be addressed. Alright. Hi. Can some of you randomly just type something in that chat to make sure that this perfect, that is beautiful. Randomly something. That was incredible. I'm fucking impressed. I think we have like a 5-second lag in Twitch. I have my delay put to 0. No fucking clue why it still has some lag. Honestly, no clue. This is beyond my understanding. I'm gonna blame Zynotiri for it, and that's all. And I'm gonna go having for you Defense Admirals on my iPad running a chat with the Defense Admiralty chat. In case I fuck up something massively, you can call me out there and I will try to course correct as good as I can. Wing commanders and up, I actually think have permissions to speak, so perfect. So you can also like voice any of your concerns to your wing commander, and they can voice it, or if there's more need later for a bit more of explanation, we can do. Twitch link is right here, and I'm just gonna kick it off as soon as I see enough people there. Perfect. Alright. So you should all be seeing a what the fuck? A presentation that's apparently cut. Oh, I know why. Maybe. What the fuck? Okay. Shit. Let me create a new input. Display capture, create now, okay. Automatic. Display 2, okay, perfect. Perfect. There you go. Now that worked. I don't know how I did it, but it's lucky that I actually did it. Perfect. Okay, so 7 p.m. Well, depends on where you are in the world. So I'm not gonna be Spain centric. It's whatever the fuck p.m. Probably 5 p.m. UTC. And shall we kick it off? Perfect. All right. So let's kick it off. Very simple presentation. I guess you all know us. I'm Tariq, Fleet Admiral for Nova Defense, and here with us is the Defense Leadership Team, which actually encompasses most of you, but in particular today, the ones that have really contributed heaps to this fucking presentation, to the point that they don't play Star Citizen, but Office Citizen, are Bloodsix, Keria, Angera, and Detrium. Thank you very much, guys, and thank you very much to also the other wing commanders and commanders that have been contributing, creating the content that is going to be presented today. So just brief slider and recap. What are we about? Nova Defense is all about having an established vision. We are here to support Nova, and we are here to live and breathe the values and behaviors of Nova, which can be summarized on don't be a cunt. We want to have engagement through content creation, because Star Citizen is a massive sandbox. Even when it is released, it will be a massive sandbox. So it falls upon us as leaders to generate the content for our members to enjoy, exemplified with our staple operations of battlegrounds, wars, and soon duels. And we try to provide some sort of leadership and structure to enable that content creation and that engagement, because we want to make sure that despite being the largest exclusive organization in the verse, you still have that feeling of a tight-knit community and family through your squadrons and through your wings. Very briefly, so I think that we could have introduced this in the past. We have 3 core principles, which are first, combined arms. We basically strive to be proficient in all forms of warfare. We don't expect to be the super elite, exclusive light fighters, because at the end of the day, it will all be about objectives, and to achieve an objective, you will need to be able to coordinate air, ground, navy in an efficient manner, minimizing your casualties, because that will matter at some point. Then organization, we want to bear and leverage our third principle, which is numbers, and numbers without organization is nothing but chaos. And that's why we reinforce so heavily the need for the commanders, for the wing commanders, for the squadrons, and all the structures that we put in place. And again, numbers, nothing matters without your activity, because at the end of the day, like, everything that is done to satisfy this need of the community to have content in this great game that is Star Citizen, and well, we do it for you, and with you we live and we die. So all our strategy is sustained on this third pillar, which is numbers. We want to be organized, and we want to use it in a sensible combined arms attachment manner. Well, our objective is very, very simple. We want to create the Versus premier fighting force by leveraging those principles of combined arms, organization, and numbers. And for that, we've defined 4 strategic imperatives. The first one of them was our training academies, which several of you had questions in our Slido. For that, we want to establish curriculums and standards across squadrons. We want to make sure that when you call on a Air Force squadron, you're able to receive the level of coverage and brackets professionality. We're still not giving salaries, but one day we might. When I win the lottery, we'll ask your bank account details and everything. Then strategic imperative 2 is to transition from a squadron-based organization to more of a wings-based organization, because it's clear that due to the scope and span of this great verse, a group of 10 persons, calculating that average, you will not have more than 50 to 70% of your squadron at the same time active. 10 people is not enough to achieve most objectives in the game, and thus we want to transition to a bit more of a wing-based organization, and you will have seen a recent drive to create more wings and start populating them. We want a third strategic imperative, which is reputation. We want a reputation as a competent force and as a fun force, because we need to understand that, you know, there will be different players in the verse that play different ways this game, and as long as they're not griefing and disrespecting the terms and conditions marked by CAG, that is a valid way of playing. So we want to be gracious in victory, gracious in defeat, and a reputation. We want to be competent but fun, because fun is one of the essence of Nova Defense. This is not the place if you want to be competent at the cost of being a cunt, because that is principle number 1 of Nova Defense. Don't be an asshole. And the fourth strategic imperative, as I mentioned before already, is to practice more the combined arms attachment scenarios, which we have a big fortune that we've been already practicing it for several years, and it is not normal or for most organizations to be able to try battles of 25 versus 25, 30v30, 40v40, 50v50. We take a lot of learnings every time we make one of these combats, and we put them to the good use, and we've seen in several cases, you know, the ability to coordinate effectively ground, air, and naval force can lead to success against an enemy that is individually superiorly skilled. And these will be our precept by which we'll live and die. Numbers, combines up detachment through wings, and always having fun. Tying to strategic imperative 1, there is a new element that we're bringing online now, which is the Nova Defense Division pathways. What is that? Before moving into the slide, let me do a bit of preemption, preambula, whatever. Say a bit of fluffy bullshit. Fundamentally, we have, as you know, well, we had, as you know, 3 divisions. Now we're going to have 4, which will become apparent in our next slide. But the core element is that for each division, we want to make sure that everyone has a place, because this is the driving imperative from Nova. Nova is all about giving you a space where to play and enjoy this game the way you want to, as long as you're being a good guy. And that's why we've established those pathways, because it will help you transition from a moment in which you just want to have a more casual experience to a moment in which you want to have a bit more committed or elite experience. So what we've done is we fundamentally defined for each and every one of our divisions, which are our casual forces nomenclature and definition of squadron, and which are the associated trainings to achieve that that tag, and then what is the composition and the squadron types for each of our divisions, which will compose our regular forces. And again, behind this, each one of our admirals has been working along with the wing commanders and commanders on a training curriculum to make sure that, you know, you say, okay, I want to be a specialized stealth attack operative for the Air Force. Well, you'll have a clear route on which are the skills and trainings that you have to receive in order to achieve that. And then we will also have the system coming with Portal 3.0, a system in which we can award individuals for having a particular skill set through our new badge system. And please bear in mind that when we say badges, we don't mean necessarily a pretty PNG icon. We're speaking about a title that will be awarded to you in acknowledgement of a certain set of competencies. And then we'll have our elite forces. But enough on that. Let me move to the next page of the presentation. Here is it. And let me address the big elephant of the room. Yeah, there are 4 divisions. As you all know, Engera has been the admiral for the Marines since all of you were born and before. He will remain the admiral of the Marines, but the Marine division is now going to be exclusively MILSIM, because we had a high demand of players that wanted a MILSIM environment, and because we wanted to ensure that they had a place on where they could develop their preferred gameplay. From that, there's a 4th division born, which are the Nova Rangers. The Nova Rangers will be a ground-based division with no MILSIM, as Navy and Air Force have no MILSIM. So fundamentally, in terms of the non-MILSIM aspect of defense, pretty much business as usual, with the only thing that the name changes from Marines to Nova Rangers. And the Marines, and Engera will cover that later, become a spin-off 4th division where anyone that wants MILSIM, regardless if it's for ground, air or capital ships, can go and find that MILSIM environment. But I will really not dwell much more into that, because I don't want to steal his thunder. So let me cover briefly what we have here. First, unless, I don't know, like Detrium Blood, do you want to explain like the division of Navy and Air Force, or you want me to just blast on? Detrium's in his cell phone, he just moved. Alright, I'll cover Detrium then, and you go on when it's time for the Air Force. So, covering Navy, basically what we've drawn here is a pathway from the point in which either a squadron is created or where you join a squadron. In the blue color, you see the denominations for the squadrons, and on the gray color, you see the associated badges that members on that squadron will have at that point. So, fundamentally, when a squadron is born, should they decide to be Navy, they will receive the denomination of a Navy squadron, as you all have now. And members, upon completion of the basic training, which is again fan oriented and game oriented, will receive the ensign badge, and that is what would compose the casual forces. In terms of rangers, the same will apply. A starting squadron would be called a ranger squadron, and a member completing basic training will receive the ranger badge. To transition into regular forces is when you will be allowed as a commander and as a team to select which squadron specialty will you be in. And what we've created is like a series of archetypes of squadron types on which most, if not all, of the gameplay that we see today and we imagine in the future might come can be comprehended. Thus, in Navy, you will be able to select from a combat ship squadron, from a destroyer squadron, a specialist squadron such as torpedo gunner, interdiction, a carrier squadron, or a logistics support squadron. To achieve this squadron definition, the squadron as a whole will have to take a test, which will be in-game, defined by the admiral of each division, and basically, upon successful completion of that test, the squadron as a whole graduates and is able to now receive, which will be manually given in Portal 3.0, the category, the subcategory of the squadron. Up until then, everybody in the portal will have the designation of Navy Squadron. And then members that want to go even beyond can have access to their proficiencies specialty badges. So we've defined, in collaboration again with the wing commanders and the commanders of defense, the following badges, which are the badge of pilot, co-pilot, turret gunner, engineer, deck chief, gunnery master, logistic expert, super capital pilot, and captain. Don't worry, the following slides will cover exactly the definition of all the squadron types and the definition of what is expected of someone with that badge. In terms of rangers, we have created 5 squadron archetypes. Again, assault teams, security teams, mechanized squadrons, reconnaissance squadrons, and airborne infantry squadrons. And the associated badges that you can strive to achieve as a member belonging to one of those squadron tribes is Breacher, Stalwart, Machinist, Heavy Weapons, Naked Snake, Pending Change, Combat Engineer, Combat Medic, Marksman, Negotiator, and Bodyguard. I will be honest, the badges of the Rangers are subject to change because are the ones that I pretty much took out of my arse on a whim. And you know, should this division have enough squadrons and enough demand to build a full division, at that point, like, you know, with the leadership of that division, we can rethink the names of the badges. And for Air Force, I will let Blood 6 go on because my throat is getting dry, and I will take this moment to drink water.
So we have the same system, obviously, but I'll elaborate a little bit on the pathway. So, like Tarek said, start a squadron. If you just want to be relatively casual, you want to get together with your buddies and fly. You got an Air Force squadron, you get a pilot badge. To work your way up, we have this is tied into our academies. So basically, a lot of us have the beginners, intermediate, advanced, and master class level is what we're building out, and each of these sort of goes along with a level. So, for instance, if I was a new commander and I said I want to run a Air Force style offensive strike squadron, air superiority. I would come in and first of all, if you're a commander in the Air Force particularly, we want you to have a relatively good competency to start with. So you'll be up the scale a ways. But you start your squadron. You say, this is what I want to work towards. I want to work towards the offensive strike squadron. So get your people together. If you want to be there, you want to make sure your people want to be there as well. And to get there, you want to have a number of your squadron with the training certificates and the badges to call themselves a striker. Once you get there, and you have, I think we're looking at 70 to 80% of your active squadron having that badge, then we give you that you are a offensive strike squadron. So if you then want to say, we want to be the top guns, we want to be some of the best that we can, and we want to be very competitive in PvP. We'll look at saying, go through the master classes of whatever you're really wanting to do, and if everybody can, or if a number of people can get your Maverick badge, then we'll call you an elite offensive strike squadron. This is still in the works, so we've got the training that we have to be put together and everything, but this is what we're sort of envisioning as we go. And the same goes for each one of these: security, bounty hunters, stealth ops, anti-cap. Work in progress, but this is what you can sort of expect. So for Air Force in particular, it's not going to be tough to get up into a offensive strike squadron or a bounty hunter squadron, but it's going to be a pretty big jump to go from a bounty hunter to a hunter killer. So you'll know the people that put in the time and have the skills to get there eventually. Also, just if you're looking at the offensive strike, we'll say there's a number of different disciplines underneath that we can look at. We can say, I want to do a snub fighter squad that's an offensive strike, or I want to do a heavy fighter squad. Or if you go into the anti-capital route, I want to do torps. I want to do a squad of Aries. These are not the end-all be-all. There are definitely subcategories to these. And what's nice is as the game grows, and if something new comes up, we can insert those new disciplines into any one of these, hopefully into any one of these systems here. So you'll have the gameplay, and we'll create the training that will go with it. So we'll always be looking for input. And if you see something that's not on here, or you have any questions, pop them into the defense channel or send them up to us.
Thank you, Blood. As you can see, there's also a third bucket called Elite Forces in this presentation. So fundamentally, what we have also designed is those of you who truly want to be committed, who truly want to be beyond elite, and who truly want to demonstrate that you are as useful in an Aurora as you are in a Javelin, can seek those elite forces as a denomination, and that is both for a squadron and for an individual. So Navy can have their Spartan squadrons, Rangers will have the Green Berets, and Air Force will have the Top Guns, with the Cerberus squadron type being for those of you who manage to master warfare in all its flavors, both as a ground combatant, as a space fighter pilot, and as a Navy captain. Without further ado, let's go and check the definitions of each squadron. For Navy, you will have combat ship squadrons, which those are squadrons that crew the line ships of our Navy, such as Idris, or dedicated patrol on gunboat ships like the Hammerhead or Perseus. And those will be engaging a wide variety of enemies. Basically, those are our jack of all trades ships of the line. Then we have our destroyer squadrons, which will be specialized on hunting other big whales in the space. We will have the specialist squadrons dedicated for corvettes that have a very defined and particular role, such as the Polaris and its stealth bombing role, the Nautilus with the mine layer operation, or the A2 with the bombing support role. Then we will have the carrier squadron type, which will be fundamentally about transporting, protecting, and deploying their onboard air force, projecting the force and act as a mobile base, and take for the care and also be able to care and repair for the entire air squadron that's comprehended within the carrier. And then logistics, which will cover the provision of supplies, ammunition, and repair materials for a wing or battle group to ensure that they remain battle ready or to extend their operation life cycle beyond their current abilities. I see an important conversation going on, so let me 1 moment tackle it, and I will go back to the Rangers later. I see people asking about, what about my squadron within my wing? Well, reality is that squadrons and divisions are more of a training concept. The fact is that as we evolve into wings and as we evolve from wings to battle groups, Nova Defense acts as a whole, so there will not be a clear division between, now I am under the command of Doctrine, so I need to wait my orders back from Navy before I can support your Air Force operation. No. In battle, Nova Defense acts as one. Wings will be mixed, so you will have a mix of Navy, Rangers, Air Force squadrons within wings, and certainly you will have a mix of Navy, Rangers, and Air Force within the battle groups. Battle groups are the next step of evolution, which we hope to be ready by the tail end of next year, in which a group of wings join together under control of an admiral. So, back to Rangers. Rangers have the following squadron types. You have the assault teams, where basically is offensive ground focus, and the security teams, which will be basically a defensive focus, either stationed on board of Navy vessels or on Nova bases. Then we will have the mechanized infantry, basically infantry with APCs for transport or combat vehicles to engage in frontline combat, to take out other fleets of enemy ground vehicles or to breach a base. We will have reconnaissance, which will be dedicated to the observational report of tactical information to higher command and be able to operate in a self-sustaining manner behind enemy lines in an isolated manner from our defense supply chain. That's you can see there that's where Naked Snake's going. And then you will have your Airborne Infantry. So for those of you who are too psychotic to be defined as an offensive assault specialist, you can even go more psychotic and go full berserk and become a specialist on rapid insertions and redeployments from dropships. This is basically entering hot, jumping while moving, and if you manage to survive, get the fuck out of there on your own means and just rinse and repeat, baby. And then for Air Force, as Blood covered, you'll have the security squadrons, which are all about escort and patrol. We have the strike teams, which are groups specialized in projecting Nova Defense forces. You'll have bounty hunters, specialists in tracking and interdiction and elimination of hostile assets. You'll have stealth operations, which will be all about stealth, misdirection, and psyops. And you will have the anti-capital squadron types, which are focused on hunting bigger ships, or as John Crew, my arch enemy, I love you, John, would like to say, are specialized on punching above the weight. That's pretty much in terms of the squadron types, and you can see how you actually can start marrying some aspects. If you want to have an offensive focused wing Air Force base, you will probably want to have a Navy carrier squadron along with Air Force strike team, a Ranger security team, and potentially either a second Air Force strike team squadron or maybe a stealth operations squadron. And basically that's it. That's your mini army. We want to look at wings as the minimum competency unit, the minimum the minimum structure able to complete 99.9% of the missions that will come in the verse, because the wing effectively will have 41 individuals, and that's an organization larger than most organizations have in the verse. So a wing should be able to tackle most scenarios, whether planned or unplanned. And the last step, I promise you're about to stop being bored by me and you'll start being bored by someone else, the defense badges. The Navy badges, we have the pilot badge, pretty self-explanatory. The co-pilot badge, which will be all about handling the support functions such as power, shield management, communication, and relaying whatever are your needs to your engineers when all these nodes gameplay comes in play. Then being a super capital pilot, because Doctrine wasn't sure about those of you that were pausing. Yeah, but you can drive an Idris because that's for plebs like Tariq. But what about someone who wants to drive my Javelin? You're gonna be special. So that will be for the true super capitals of the game. You will have gunnery chiefs, which will be all about being able to control the offensive payload of a ship. Engineers, again self-explanatory. Deck chiefs, which will be only present normally in carrier squadrons, because their task is to, and their expertise is to make sure that the on-board fighter contingent is working adequately. You'll have a security chief. You will have a logistics expert, which will be more for those logistics squadrons. You'll be tasked with making sure that whichever wing, battle group, or force you're supporting is well supplied in terms of things like ammunition, armor, condoms, whatever. And then you will finally have your captain badge for commanders that are tried and tested and have their genitalia peeled from multiple battles and engagements. Then for the Rangers, you will have the Breachers, which is all about being able to board and capture enemy capital ships, and expert in EVA environments and zero-G environments. The Stalwart, which is basically someone that is especially proficient on defending and organizing forces to defend, creating choke points, fatal funnels, and being able to repel a superior number of forces. Machinist, again about the ground vehicles, both as driver and gunner. Heavy weapons, for all of you that are sociopath. Naked Snake is basically a survivalist, able to operate during protracted times beyond enemy lines, harrowing them without any support from the rest of defense. Combat Engineers, it's all about Kowalski goes boom boom. Basically experts in damaging and repairing structures in ground through the use of explosive or anti-explosive, whatever is going to be used to repair structures. I have no clue. Combat Medics, self-explanatory. Marksman, self-explanatory. And then Negotiator and Bodyguard for those that are experts in hostage rescue and experts in VIP protection. I would say yes, as long as... Well, sorry, apologies. We have another question in the chat, which if these badges and role will also be available for core squads, commanders, and wings. Absolutely. The Nova trainings will be available for all of you. If one of you wants to have the dedication of being proficient in multiple branches, since the non-defense branches also have a secondary function as defense, that's great. Because when it's time to call help, you will have a much more well-defined combat role. Absolutely, no issues on any aspect. Probably except the Nova Marines in the Milsim Master, because that, as you will see later, will have a bit more of commitment. And then the final leg is the Air Force with the following badges: the Defender. And again, as Vlad said, those badges go directly related to the typology of squadron that you are in. So when you are in security squadron, you will be a defender, and if you become a master, you'll become a guardian. For strike squadrons, you'll be a striker, and those elite will become mavericks. For bounty hunters, you will start as bounty hunters, and you can evolve to hunter-killers when you master the training pathway of that academy. For stealth operations, you'll start as a prowler, and you'll end as a stalker. Funny, they detained me for that once. And for anti-capital squadrons, you'll start as a BFG, and you'll end up as a Kingslayer. And that is pretty much everything for the pathways, the architecture, and how are we going. So I think without further ado, I would like to give the ground to Aingera, who will cover this new exciting development in Nova called the Nova Marines Corps.
Thank you. All right, so Derek, go to our second slide there. So as you guys know, I've been working on these divisions for a while. What, Turk? You can't see the slide. You changed it. There we go. My mic is low. All right. Well, not much I can do about it, guys. I'll try to talk louder. So as you guys know, we've been working on this Marine division for a while. For some of us, it's probably been like a year and a half. Some of you have been on board with it for maybe 6 months. Some have been a year. We've been going through developing different trainings. It started off with the rifleman training, which grew into what became our Marine Auxiliary Training, or our MAT, for the Marine Division. The original intent behind it was to set a simple standard for everyone to follow and maintain, focusing purely just on communication, simple tactics, and coordination. Right. We ended up doing a lot of weeks of trainings and testings and trials, as a lot of you participated in it. We got a lot of feedback from a lot of you. It proved very insightful, and there was a clear distinction of what needed to be done, and it presented a big challenge that we had to face. Right. As it says there, how do we raise a more uniform standard across the entire division, which was the Marine Division, while maintaining our vision of Nova? All right. So you want to go to the next slide there, Tarek? It presented us with a unique challenge, and the challenge of it was very simple, right? You know, those of you who liked rigid structure, it did increase the average attendance size we found, and the effectiveness of the individuals in there. The more open structure increased average operation frequencies and the variety of operations, right? So that's kind of what we're running into right now. You guys can go on in there and you can play any type of operation we had. The general regular members, it's split between people that liked rigid structure. They expected more freedom to do things how they wanted, play the game how they wanted. Milsim people, or people that liked more rigid structure, disliked open structure, and wanted more standards, or a higher standard of operating. Okay. And we found trying to mix the two with our Marine Auxiliary Training was kind of like oil and water, right? These two mindsets didn't mix, and ultimately one would just envelop the other, right? So creating needless conflict and abrasion, misunderstanding, miscommunications. It was just causing a lot of problems, which was essentially the concept was against the original vision of Nova, right? And if you guys read the vision of Nova, it states providing a place for everyone, right, and respecting how people wish to play the game. So we go to the next slide there, Tarek, please. So basically, this resulted in High Command offering a solution. to it, and just separating the two, pulling it right out and making its own thing, essentially, right? A new light milsim doctrine will be applied uniformly across the existing Marine division, and its current squadrons will be offered the option of following the new doctrine, right? Um, Save your questions, guys. A lot of them will be asked here at the end. But essentially, as Tarek said, to go a little bit more in depth, if there are at least 5 squadrons of Marines that have no interest in this doctrine or new way of doing things, or cannot meet the new entry standards or don't want to, the new division will be spun up, which is Derek talked about earlier, the Ranger Division. If there are fewer than 5 squadrons, or it's not that popular, as Derek said, it'll probably be moving under the Air Force or Navy Division to continue their own interests within Nova Defense. This solution, as it says, provides a direction for everyone, right? Both milsim and non-milsim. A lot of people like the milsim. A lot of people don't like the milsim. They want nothing to do with it, right? So this new milsim essentially will be emulating what some of you might be familiar with is the U.S. Marine Corps' Marine Air Ground Task Force, right? Generally focusing on the tactics, techniques, and roles within what's called a MAGTF or Marine Air Ground Task Force, or what they might look like in Star Citizen. All right. It will be built around fielding platoon size elements or wings, essentially in Nova, so 40-man groups only. We're moving away from the squads or squadron sizes of things. Together, these elements will focus on larger operations, fielding effective command and control. Right. Relying on real-world military tactics, strategies, and discipline without relying on tactical fluff or needless ranks and roleplay. Right. Again, always striking a balance between the fun and realism. This is kind of what a light milsim really is. This will go hand in hand with understanding that obviously Star Citizen is a game, it's an alpha, and we don't want to burn people out, but we also understand that everybody comes here to have fun, right? Everybody has their own interpretation of how they want to play Star Citizen, right? So it's going to be a very delicate balance and something that isn't going to be perfect, but we're always going to strive to achieve the balance, right? Um, Wherever we screw up, we will strive to learn from it, correct it, and improve upon it. Right. The Marine Division will be formally structured as the 901st Marine Expeditionary Force, or the 901st MEF, or just the 901st, and it's going to be broken down into 2 regional units: the 171st, which is going to be the U.S. side of things, and the 132nd MEU or Marine Expeditionary Unit, which will be the EU UK side of things, right? For now, we're broken it up into those two. Those in Nova, there is generally it's broken down into those 2 regions for now. These units will follow the predefined Marine Air Ground Task Force structured to maintain uniform capabilities and operations. And the next slide here it'll kind of show what exactly is a Marine Air Ground Task Force, right? Is this all the? Yeah, it is. Okay. It's a term used to describe a principal organization for all operations across the range of our military ops, right? MAGTFs are Balanced Air-Ground Combined Arms Task Force of Marine Corps forces under a single command element that is structured to accomplish whatever that mission is, right? It's broken up into 4 elements. The command element, CE, composed of different command elements, supporting staff, administrative officers, whatever it is, right? From there, we break it up into our ground combat element, composed of infantry, broken down into platoons, squads, fire teams, also containing support elements such as tank platoons, force recon elements, that kind of thing. Then from there, we have the ACE, or the Aviation Combat Element, right? Which is our air power for the MAGTF, and that's going to be organized following the U.S. military's Air Force of squadrons, groups, and wings composed of all aircraft, both aerial, Navy, with their pilots and responding crew. The ACE will be broken up into two parts, one for the fighters or the Marine Air Wings, what we're calling MAWs, and the naval support elements, the NSEs. Okay, so those are your naval ships, everything from your capital class vessels, hammerheads, whatever. That's where all that's going to go under. The logistics combat element from there, your LSE, is composed of your logistical transport elements, medical supply units, things like our air delivery stuff, or what we're calling our combat landing support teams. Okay. Again, keep in mind a lot of this is tentative in a sense. You missed a slide, Turk. Yep. Okay. Training will be broken down into 3 stages essentially. We have our BCT, which is basic combat training, our AIT, which is advanced individual training, and our combat specialization schools. They each serve a different purpose, right? Instilling our standards, integrating techniques, and then honing effectivenesses as a group, right? Next slide there, Tarek. For this group, for the 901st, we're doing something unique. I know it says BCT is basic combat training, but in this case, for BCT is what we're calling our selection process. It's a 2-stage process that is utilized as a screening and acceptance tool into the 901st. It is not training. All applicants will essentially be provided our comprehensive manual, right, our material breakdown of all of our standards and information that you need to know as an individual to operate within the unit. Then from there, you'll be expected to learn this material before attending a selection operation to prepare yourselves to apply it in an operation alongside other Marines while you're being observed for those standards. What we're going to be observing you is for 3 key components. So your studied knowledge and application of the material provided, your ability to operate effectively in a team-oriented environment, and your ability to apply that standard in the field. So we're not teaching you anything. This is a self-taught session. As you all know, it takes a lot of time and effort to play Star Citizen. So trying to go in and teaching you guys everything you need to know there's a lot of time, effort, and resources invested into it. So we're moving away from the training, and you guys are to invest the time if you wish to do it. From there, we've got our AITs, Advanced Individual Trainings. Basically, those are the supplemental trainings, role-based trainings. Examples of those could be like the designated marksman, honor rifleman, medic, pilot, whatever. These are just roles that you can take as an individual, and within the unit you get assigned to as needed, right? They're simple, adaptable, and iterative improvements are as the underlying game allows them, denying additional applications of real-world tactics, right? So basically your AITs. Next one, Tarek. From there, we got talked about our CSS, or Combat Specialization Schools. These ones more serve the unit as a whole, right? That focus in honing a higher tier of refined skills that we can develop. So essentially honing your individual skills and honing that to a higher level. Right, these trainings will be designed on the principle of high comprehensive knowledge, unconventional techniques, and experimental concepts. Right, these trainings will be bought online as necessary to further expand our combat capabilities in the game. Um, just like anything else, you know, as the game develops, as the unit grows, um, we will add additional trainings as needed. Next slide there, Mr. Turk. So this unit, the 901st, will be operating off of 3 core principles: teamwork, maturity, and integrity. Right? This is a voluntary process. Anybody who wants to join can join it, just like anybody, wants to join Nova, they can join Nova. Anybody wants to join a squadron, they can join a squadron. You know, Same thing. Everything here is voluntary. As it says, there's many places for people can go to have fun. Nova is about diversity, right? If you're looking for a greater focus on maintaining an efficient, intelligent task force, our emphasis on community development and interaction will rise to this challenge. From there, we have our maturity principle. So if anybody's bringing a foul attitude or otherwise behaving in an undesirable way, you can expect to be shown the door. The division in this sense trumps the individual. So toxic attitudes are not tolerated. Where everybody's an adult here generally, right? And you're expected to act like one, right? As it says. So, you know, you don't have to do something you don't want to do, is what it really comes down to, right? Integrity, holding our members to a higher standard of conduct and following the priority of quality over quantity above everything we do. To further define this, we exclusively value those who go above and beyond to volunteer their time to uphold our vision within this unit, the 901st. From there, we've got our simple mission statement, right? Breaks it down. This is where we started the main unit from and how we built it out from there. But to be the premier self-sufficient expeditionary force instilled with a warrior ethos that equates the efficient use of vital resources with increased combat effectiveness. We increase the operational reach of Nova intergalactic through operational excellence, continuously improving our competitiveness and efficiency, and advancing, further leveling our technology within the game and tactics. In all that we do, we are guided by our core values and core principles, as I said earlier, are teamwork, maturity, and integrity. Understanding that it's not just what we do, but how we do it that underpins our success. All right. The last few slides are some questions I know a lot of you probably have. So when will the doctrine be deployed? This new doctrine and material and subsequent transition period will occur upon completion of our entry standard material and required trainings. All relevant personnel will be notified upon the start of this, and then in the meantime, no change will take place, and we'll just continue with our day-to-day operations until then. How does this impact you if you are not a Marine, or if you're in Air Force, or in Corps, or another branch, or not even assigned one, right? It won't impact you in any way. This new doctrine mainly impacts the divisional structure and existing divisional members. However, everybody will have access to our entry standard material in Nova, and every single individual is welcome to attend our selection process if they're interested in transferring into the Marine Division. So as long as you pass our standards, selected, you get put into a roster. Everybody has access to it. If you are a Marine, in short, when deployed, you guys will have 3 to 6 months, the Marine squadrons, to decide if you guys want to go down this route. If not, if you don't, or if you do, sorry, the squadron will be dissolved and integrated into this new division. Or your squadron will be simply assigned under the most fitting non-Milsim division to continue your preferred means of gameplay. Right. So essentially, your squadron will be absorbed into this unit, the 901st. What happens if you fail BCT or selection process, or if you're not selected? If you fail to meet our entry standards or are not selected for entrance, you will be allowed to immediately retake the operation or BCT as soon as it becomes next available. Right. Our selection threshold will scale with our roster availability. So as our wings and platoons open up, and we need more people to fill it, we can host these operations again to fill those in there. In the beginning, the scale and availability of it will be much higher upon the initial deployment as existing Marine divisions complete their transfers over, as well as anybody else in defense. How are operations going to be created for this MILSIM? Operations and trainings will be created by a select group of individuals in an official capacity. Just like every MILSIM, we will be operating on select days. Chances are it could be the weekends, right? All that will be fleshed out soon. But essentially, we'll be operating as a group and as a whole, as a task force, on specific days of the week. What happens if a non-experienced player wants to join? We won't be teaching our entry standards, plain and simple. We're not teaching anything. Players will need to pass the selection through BCT and be expected to build their skills by reading and employing the standards found in our SOPs through an independent practice and general operation attendance. From there, what happens to the player that is just interested in being a pilot or another select role but not an infantry? Do they have to go through BCT? Yes, every single applicant will be required to pass BCT, our selection process. They will be provided with a comprehensive training material breaking down our standard operating procedures for infantry. The reason we chose infantry is because it teaches you the basics of how to shoot, move, and communicate as a team and how to work as a team. It will be our selection criteria for all Marines going forward. Doesn't matter if you're operating naval vessels, doing logistics, or operating flying fighters. Every single person is in there. Monteric, go back up. Tarek, back one page. Was I done? I thought there was another question on there. Players interested in more select roles within the 901st will need to first pass BCT, then go through additional training to be assigned to the specific combat element that employs those roles. All right. From there, last question that we had anyways, I think that people would have. As a commander, what happens to my squadron if you want to join? Right, I know that's probably going to be a big one. Basically, the squad size elements in the 901st will be treated as flexible and internalized under a wing sized element. So we will be focusing purely on deploying 40-man teams, right? Whether that's 40 guys flying a Navy ship or 40 guys in Air Force or 40 guys on the ground. It is possible that your entire squadron can be assigned under the same Marine element. However, nobody is guaranteed a position in this unit. It is you pass the selection process, then you get assigned in the roster based on your interests. You'll be expected to have all your members attend and pass BCT before you complete your transition. As it says, a 3 to 6 month probation period will be granted to ease the transition of any squadron, after which your old squadron will be dissolved if integrated or reassigned if not. Nova commanders will be required to obviously continue their monthly team trainings until their existing squadron is empty. So even though you are transitioning over slowly, while you have a squadron, you will be expected to do it. However, they will still be expected to continue monthly general operations unless otherwise directed. Right, so these goes for specifically commanders within the unit. Those operations will only be just general Nova operations, but not operations done for the 901st, because as stated earlier, those will be done specifically by a specific set of individuals. Also, it should be noted that being a Nova commander in this division will not guarantee you a leadership position. These positions are assigned by experience, mentorship, and training. They will be managed by myself and my designated staff officers for the immediate future. So essentially, a member could be leading the squad, a member could be leading a platoon. The training and experience those individuals have will be based on our standards that we apply. That is generally it.
Thank you very much, Angera. Thank you. Think you all agree that we've... Yeah, again, if you have questions, we have a Slido active, checking actively our chat in this channel. And genuinely, like, otherwise, like, you can always feel free to hit us later if you have any doubt that wasn't resolved or something that you think after you've had a bit more of time to digest. And just feel free to reach to any of us. In terms of, again, how this is going to be implemented, and Gara said it perfectly. There will be now a period of 3 to 6 months while they go completing the training in the backgrounds for you, Marine squadrons, to decide which path you'll take, or for you from other divisions or commanders from other branches that you might say, hey, this is what I was waiting for, I want to apply for this. Then just contact directly Angera. If you're a commander or a squadron that wants inversely to become a ranger squadron, just hit me up directly. And again, I would recommend, just have a conversation with the active members of your squadron before making any decisions. But again, remember, look, this is Nova, and as you can always move. So if you are in Navy now, and 12 months down the line you want to move to Marines, you can do that. If you want to go Rangers now and then you want to attempt to pass your BST, you can do that. If you go now Milsim and then you want to go Rangers or you want to go Orphans, you can do that. This is all about giving you more choice and more ways to play the game, and make sure that we make out of this universe the escape place where you can fulfill your dreams of being a space cowboy. Without further ado, unless any of the other admirals have something to say, I'm going to cover first the Slido questions. Unless Angera, Blood6, Detrium, Korea, you have something to add? I'm going to give 5 seconds. Okay, so I'm gonna hit. Actually, there's an important question. Very important to clarify this. Blood6 already has in the chat. Bashir asked, will there be a similar light Milsim for Navy? Marines will be all-encompassing. So the Marines will not only be ground forces. Marines will also have Air Force, as you saw in the previous presentations, and the structure. Let me go to that slide very quickly. You will be able to have the ground combat element, the aviation combat element, and the logistic combat element. And right now there's 2 being done, 1 for the US and 1 for the EU. So if you want Milsim, regardless of what you want to do within it, you have a place in the Marines as long as you pass your BCT. Okay, now that was covered, because it's important to always leave these kind of things, I'm going to go back to the Slido. And our first question, Detrium, you're gonna answer this one. No, I'm kidding. I know you'll have a fucking seizure. The first question and the most voted questions with 17 fucking votes. Now that service sizes have doubled, are you guys looking at increasing squad sizes beyond 10 people max? So the answer is, at this moment we're not, because what we're looking to transition to wings. So effectively, yes, because we want to increase the normal operating rhythm of people from 10 to 40. But the route we want to do that is to the implementation of wings rather than the extension of squadron sizes. As always, in the future, these might be revisited. This normally gets revisited and brought up to the Admirals meetings once a year or on our annual decision. And to be very honest, probably it will only have a prayer of changing the day that ships that require more than 10 crew are implemented into the game, because up till then we feel that the wing is the adequate structure to keep moving forward. I would rather have, if you want to have a team of 4 hammerheads, I would rather have 4 squadrons with their commanders operating under wing commander, and we feel that that would give a better structure and a better operating rhythm than just having a squadron of 40 people operating. So, second question, we have Marines have Navy and Air Force squadron focuses now, so given that we already have, not really. So it's a 4th division. Apologies, I haven't read it full, not all of you might be in Slido. Marines have Navy and Air Force squadron focuses now. So given that we already have divisions for that, seems like we now basically have 2 Nova defense branches. So we honestly might or we might not. We genuinely don't have a clear indicator of what will be the demand for either. But the truth is that when it comes time to fight, the fight will be done through wings, through battle groups, and on the same way through, where do you have your structure? You didn't have it here. Okay, through the similar structures that will operate on Nova Marines. So basically what we will do is High Command will tell us what to do, and then we will send Battle Group 1 to this area, supported by the Battalion 402 from the Marines. So it is all a centralized command. In terms of operation, it's just about achieving objectives. In terms of daily gameplay, yeah, you pretty much could say that you have 2 distinct Nova defenses, one that's Milsim and one that's not Milsim. Now, based on our assumptions, the size will be comparable to one of our other divisions. Then we have another question, which was a funny question because it was originally posted by one of our beloved spies, but I edited it to make it more PG appropriate. So, what is Nova going to do about their security leaks? Well, I guess most of you know that we do have spies in Nova. Some of our operations are actively hit. We have been thinking about, ways, should we restrict the operations or make it more complex? Like, the reality is, at our core, what we want is for you guys to have fun. Anything that impedes a spy from joining or knowing when or where or how our operations are happening will impede equally any of our members. And we want our members to have access to more and more content every day. So, in short, we're doing nothing about security leaks. They will happen. It is very easy to create an alt account and to join Nova, and we have to assume that we will be operating with spies on our midst. In terms of the operations that are larger, I would just prompt you, if you're not a defense-based operation, just bear in mind, ask for a contingent to help you defend yourself. And for those defense operations, it's great practice. It's fucking great if we're doing a battlegrounds and we actually have an enemy coming into the middle and trying to do something. The only thing that we've established is a simple protocol when we're fighting 40v40. Like, if there's any hostile non-Nova presence, the battle between Nova stops, and we all designate, just for funsies, which ship is the one that we protect, and everyone else just stays in their position and protects that ship. And it's fucking good practice. When it happens in PvP scenarios, come on, you're going to jump them, you're gonna expect to be hit. Like, that's actually what you should be seeking for. So it's great, in my opinion. And when things matter more, when we have stakes, when ships have insurances, when we have bases, some things might be revisited. But at this point where there are no stakes, we don't want to make things more complicated for any of our members. We want our members to have fun. And genuinely, like, honestly, I'm thankful to some of these PvP organizers. Some of them are bloody good at what they do, and they inspire us to keep getting better. They gave us really good fights, and we're actually collaborating with several, none of the more baddest, but several other organizations into crossover PvP events to just have more fun. If any of you is spies is listening here, like genuinely, if you want to organize something, just hit me up or hit Blood Six or Korea, which are more bloodthirsty admirals, and we'll organize some cool scenario, and we'll make it be genuinely something amazing for the members of all organizations involved. So that's covered. How would different wing squads be able to communicate or cooperate with completely different playstyles and vocabulary between milsim and non-milsim? Oh, I made reference to that at the beginning. So basically, wings will not necessarily communicate a lot. They will basically be deployed with a mission from Admiralty and an objective. And that's why we're creating almost this minimum competency unit, which is the wing or the battalion in case of the milsim.
Side of it, I just want to reference here too, is we won't be operating with squadrons. We'll be alongside units. Higher level units. But they themselves will be operating with
Exactly. So thinking long term, when the universe is big, when the distances are hard to travel, we will have the battalion 101st in Odin, the battle group number 1 from Nova Defense in Pyro, and when it's necessary to assign them objectives, we will assign them at a very high level, and we'll say, okay, in Gera, we need those objectives done from the Marines. Blood Six, we need those 3 objectives done from your battle group. Detrium, we need those 4 other objectives done for your battle group. And Korea, you're on defense because I'm feeling like punishing you. This Milsim division sounds like another org inside Nova, Albo to do whatever it looks. Why not have wings of Milsim squadrons within the existing squadron? The structure? It's pretty much what is happening. Like basically, the Milsim division is going to operate on more of a wing concept. They just have a different name because, as mentioned, it's all about the descriptor or the role-playing element to be present there. In terms of the squadrons, well, I gotta say that they have some spectacular people that have been designing those trainings. We literally have trainers of the US military, active members of the US military that have designed those trainings. So aside from being very educational, we do have a pool of leadership that we wanted to leverage within Marines. And again, since in Marines everything is about the teamwork and the coordination, Angera and his leadership team decided to do without the subdivision of squadron within battalions. Platoons! But it's pretty fucking good. pretty deluxe to have this kind of trainers. Would you share more of the detail about the Naval Academy and how does it have any relations with the NPL pilot license? So we've already shared all the squadrons, types, and everything. Like in terms of the Academy per se, you will have a different town hall in the future where all the training courses associated with this squadron will be presented. And no, right now it does not have anything to do with the NPL pilot license because the NPL pilot license is on freeze until Star Citizen implements a loaning system in place for the organization. Will naval squadrons, especially hammerheads, increase squad size above 10? Already covered before. No, not for the moment. Will we see more PvP practice against other orcs? Yes. We just had an event 2 weeks ago. I'm just working with another organization to have another event, and I'm also working with Avenger 1 to prepare another event and crossover with PvP with them. So yes, we're really having a PvP drive to also not be overly incestuous, because you know, if we just keep fucking amongst us, we will end up becoming degenerates, and we need a bit more of outsider gene pool to show us, you know, what's wrong, what's bad, what works, what doesn't. Will we see more battleground ops? Fuck yes. As Blood6 already started posting, so from now on battlegrounds can be posted by any of the admirals, so it's not only me organizing and executing them, so there will be more and more battlegrounds. So we will have, remember, Nova Battlegrounds, which is like two teams competing in a symmetric way for an objective, and we will also have Nova Wars, which are more of an asymmetrical, in which there's a team doing one thing and another team doing a different thing. How do you want to achieve better communication between the 3 defense division? We seem to be rather 3 separate armies and actually 1 united unit. Yes, and that's exactly what we want to do through wings. Wings will not be from a division, and for instance, if you're a wing commander that wants to have, say, Rangers and Air Force in your team, you would do well in being able to be competent in those. Fucking Jan Parisol. I think Supreme Dick Doc is gonna be more adequate. Then, why are we creating new wings when we have trouble filling out squads and creating player engagement? How would spreading us out thinner create a stronger Nova? So wings don't create more headcount. So basically the idea of the wing is like getting squadrons of like-minded individuals that want to construct something and do it. And the idea of how does it generate player engagement is basically because now as a member of a squadron you don't only have access to the general Nova operations, but you also have access to your squadron trainings, your wing trainings, the trainings of the other squadrons within your wing, because it's always very recommendable to know what your colleagues do, plus any wing specific operations and that might happen. So you'll basically just have access to more content. You're multiplying it by 4. If Milsim creates friction, why expand it? So it's created friction, I think, because it didn't have its boundaries defined, because we had a part of our ground troops that wanted Milsim and a part of our ground troops that didn't want Milsim. Hence, why we went for this solution. As mentioned, like one of our driving values in Nova is that everybody, as long as they're not a dick, has a place here, and we want to make sure that you have a place here. So we just wanted to cater for as many people, and we think that this methodology will work. And as always, like we're always constantly revisiting us and revisiting what we're doing. If working together is the main goal, why are we creating stark delineations and artificial barriers to inhibit consistency and cooperation? I am not entirely sure of what you mean by that. Let me do 2 things. First, I'm going to just reiterate what I said at the beginning, that divisions are only to create this kind of trainings in terms of deployment and in-ground performance, such as exemplified as our activities done in Jumptown. There's no squadron for this division and squadron from that division cooperating. No, there's a united battle force doing something together. Our wings and combined armed detachments is one of our core founding principles, and that we want to start driving much harder from now on with the push for wings and the push for PvP. If that didn't answer your question, make sure to post another question. I will keep reading over the next 20 minutes because I'm going to have to leave after that to put my baby to bed. And I will answer. Yes, baby?
Can I touch on that for just a second?
Yes, baby.
Okay, a good example is when we're doing our fund runs. So the squads and the wings are people who train on those separate things, but we come together for the big events. So like when we're doing a fund run, you have the cargo people and you have the escort people, and we both train on those specific things, but then we bring our expertise together in a combined effort. I think that's, it's not really, it's red tape and compartmentalization, but just for the training. We still want to be able to come together and mix it up.
I love listening to your sultruous voice, and you're always so articulate. And yes, he answered much better than I ever could. So exactly that. Nonetheless, if you still have a question, post it. Say follow up to, and then we will read it. Milsim sounds like a completely different org. What is being issued about the obvious issues it will create? We don't see that this will create obvious issues. Like it will just create a place for different people that want different things to play. And as mentioned, in terms of operational engagement and actual in-field deployment, it will all be managed at the Admiralty level, and everyone will receive their own specific objectives. And of course you can.
Basically, don't look at, and I know there's some comments in here about there's only so many divisions that's been against it, but I'm just going to tell you, in Division 3, the very first paragraph does it state that creating a place for everybody. That is what squadrons are. Squadrons, in a sense, are very many organizations, individuals. You can your squadrons. You can name them. You can have your own structures in them. You generally decide on what days you want to play. You generally decide on what you're going to wear, what you're going to do in them, right? And that is everything based on that commander, right? And if you want to join a squadron, there is something for everybody in Nova. That is what Nova is at the end of the day, right? So saying that this Milsim division will, bring Martha, it's actually the opposite. In a sense, it will give a place for individuals that want Milsim to go.
Yeah, I would probably.
Like the PvP community.
Or there.
Like Milsim.
Exactly.
It's just adding another avenue for which you can play.
I would literally prompt for you to think about it like it's the same as if someone wants to mine. Well, there's a core branch, and they do things completely different and do things different, and there's no tension there. There should not be tension here. And in terms of operational deployment, as mentioned, people, wings, battle groups, battalions, and platoons will receive an objective, and they will go completed.
And it's all based on PvP. Just to be clear, everything is based on doing this at the PvP level, right? So how is the Milsim division going to be operating in PvP? We're going to be using these tactics and these strategies in PvP.
Another question, very interesting. I don't want to leave this unaddressed. Will we end up having tiers of members? Comms for verified. Although letting everyone into the org boosts Nova on every side is not good for some PvP or org gameplay. That is something that we've discussed an infinity of times. Potentially, there will be a day where certain operations will only be accessible for members of squadrons or members with this particular badge attained. That is something that will be able to happen in Portal 3.0. Currently it's impossible to manage an audit, but it's something that we've been speaking and might happen if one day is operationally necessary, because for me, like, the first thing is having fun and protecting the org. If one thing that in one day that is necessary, that will be implemented in terms of ensuring that we have operational security when it matters. Right now, the ship explodes, you flame it back, money means nothing. Will squads from other divisions, for example Frontiers, be able to attend training such as Reconnaissance, hosted by Defense, and obtain the attached badges? Yes, no problem, except potentially for the Marines division. I don't know if you want to say I'm wrong there, Ingera. Feel free to just break in and say no. You can also attend a BCT if you have no intention of joining the Marines, and you will get your badge. But for all the other divisions, no problem. Someone is asking if they can, for instance, if they could come and complete your BCT, obtain your badge, but still be a member of Core.
BCT is not a training. BCT is a selection process. Our training material is just like if you guys go onto our database, you can see all the stuff that the Marines do already. You can see a lot of the stuff the other divisions do already and how they operate. Just like that, that is what we're going to be basing it on. So BCT is a selection process. It's not a training. We don't train people to our standard. You train yourself to the standard, then you get integrated into the army process. You'll be starting off small. You'll start off with some squads in each region, and then as people get added into the process, we'll grow it out. But
Perfect.
it's not a 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Perfect.
It's 100% commitment.
So summary,
You're all in, all out.
no for Marines, yes for all the other divisions. Another question from Jean Parisot. How will you balance the ratio of the different squad types to avoid situations where there will be 10 squads of one type and only 2 types of another? So far, we've not been proactively managing and forcing people to do something. Now, we have tried similar things in the past to construct wings based on the Nova needs. Unfortunately, we have seen that when you are asking this kind of commitment that requires to create a squadron, maintain a squadron, or to create a wing and maintain a wing from people who you're not paying to, the only currency you can pay with is passion, and they're only truly passionate of what they want to do. So we think it's always better for you, when you create a squadron, to create what you want, because you'll be passionate about that and you'll want to build that. Now, nonetheless, it doesn't mean that we're not keeping an eye. We have tools like the Nova Squadron Planner, in which we basically have a Gantt chart of when the different squadrons are coming online, what's our pipeline of commanders, what's our pipeline for Navy, which is the squadron completion. So we have a number of tools that we use to follow to ensure that we do have the necessary number of assets. But the reality is, like, for now, we're not watching and we're not forcing, and when we tried to force something to happen, it didn't work well, and I think it made sense that it didn't work well, because you're giving your time, and it's only fair that you're giving your time to do what you want to do. Will badge certifications need to be maintained, tested, for example, once a year to ensure that person maintains competency? So that is something that we're speaking about. Potentially, that the squadron test might be necessary to take even number of your squadron leaves, but other than that, we haven't really decided black or white, other than Marines, in which, yes, you will be expected to do monthly retrainings to keep up to date. Who will fly for the Milsim Marines, Milsim pilots? Yes, indeed. You can be someone that only wants to be a pilot and just complete your BCT, prove that you're a good cultural fit, and you're in, and you'll be a pilot. Will we break into regions? Server Mission might break the gameplay into the region gameplay. So that's a great question. I don't know yet, but yes, we're future-proofing. We're trying to build a scenario in which we have enough admirals in the US and enough admirals in the EU that, should that be a requirement, we're ready to answer in an agile, convenient manner. And as you saw from the planner, we're always kind of looking and gauging what is the presence of squadrons per division per time zone. Sinister asks if we can get recruiters, where a commander outwards can apply to become a recruiter and draw players into Nova Defense from both in and outside of Nova. I think that's a fucking brilliant idea. I'm gonna pass it on to Blood6, because he's collaborating a lot with PR and good shit, because I think that's a great idea. So I don't know, but that's beyond my pay grade. So I'll come back to you on that one, Sinister. Absolutely. Perfect. Alpha Hugo asks, how will these new quadrant subs impact on the ping alerts in Nova Rescue and Security channel? It won't, because those ping alerts you select based on the role you want. So those are voluntary squadrons, and thus far they are not assigned to a particular division. Another question from Rockhound. Why is Core not included in this change? All units need things that Core does, and Core needs things that Defense does. So High Command and the High Council have known about this impending change. I've already passed all the Defense templates and structures to my fellow Fleet Admirals. We're implementing it in Defense because we're just at a different stage of growth and activity. But I think that both Molesky and Antithesis liked the idea of establishing those clear pathways and those clear divisions. So I think you're going to have very sexy news for current frontiers soon too. Normally we also use defense as a test vest because we're a bunch of sociopaths. So if something goes wrong, well, you just give them a lot of people to murder and they become happy again. Another question, are you satisfied with the current number of squadrons and commanders? Do you plan on having more or less squads? So I'm satisfied today, yes, very. We have around 40 squadrons in Nova Defense, and a bit more of a dozen more commanders and CITs above that number. Our plans is yes, so we have an operational objective. We would like to reach the 100 squads by CitizenCon of next year, and not only that, but we would also like to have 12 to 16 wings operational and fully trained by that point. So Marines are going to become Nova Hardcore Org, whereas on RSI we are marked as Nova Regular Org. Yes, I would guess in that respect Marines will be a bit more hardcore, but Nova as a general is a regular commitment organization, and again you do not need the commitment that we ask from you to become a member of defense. Doesn't change. It is perfectly valid. Say if you wanna remain a casual forces to be forever a Navy squadron without specialization composed of a team of ensigns, and just come do your operation once a month, train with your squadron, have fun and be very casual oriented. Normally what will happen is that in case of shit hitting the fun, we will start working our way backwards from the right elite forces to the center regular forces plus to the regular forces with specialty, and then we will call them the casual forces. So that's the only difference that you'll have if you stay more on that casual side. You won't be the first one to be called if we have a PvP competitive event against another org, or if Fleshfear gets his ass probed again by aliens. Sounds like a new different org, to be honest. Yes, I think one of the beautiful things of Nova is that we keep reinventing ourselves to keep moving forward. Nova's grown 8,000 members since I joined years ago, and when we are 100,000 members, we will need to be a different org that we are today in order to keep up with it. And everything else, we have time command, that we covered this. Do we have time command structure? Yes, that will come online when we have the battle groups. The battle groups will be based in time zones, so we will have the North American battle group, the European battle group, and then we will have the second North American battle group, the second European battle group, and as you've seen in Marines, their platoons are already like that. There's one platoon for the EU and one platoon for North America. Is Nova basically placed in the US or is it global? So we're global with a heavy focus on Europe and the US. We would like a lot to expand our operations in Asia, Oceania time zones. So if you know about, commander material, or you really want to push yourself forward, please let me know, because I'm desperately seeking to beef up that time zone, because until you do not have a critical mass, there's not this noble effect that keeps attracting people. All this revamp is nice and well. How will we reach the rest of Nova that aren't on our Discord? If they're not in our Discord, normally we will not take into account in terms of the active player base. When we do stock of the resources we have to protect Nova, we only look genuinely at the people that are regularly engaged in our Discord, that we know, and most likely the people that are currently in squadrons. What is the long-term strategy plan for Nova for High Command? Could we have a loose roadmap so anyone sees the general goals and those that want to help can? So I can only provide it for defense, but I will definitely feed it back for High Command. The idea long term, as you know, is to maintain Nova as a place where everybody that is a good person and wants to have fun and is ready to be a team player can have their place and can play the game in the way they want. Does this mean that number 13 will become Air Force? Number 13, not Not necessarily. Right now, and let me cover also another question that I saw at some point, but I don't see anymore, which was about grandfathering for existing squadrons. Like existing squadrons, the maximum grandfathering that they will be at the discretion of the admiral, were to just give them all the Navy Squadron, Ranger Squadron, Air Force Squadron designation with the ensign, Ranger, and pilot badges. There will be no grandfathering for squadron specialty types.
Add to that tag too.
Yeah.
I think number 13 is a bomber squadron.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You have a specialist squadron there, which is particularly for A2s. I guess you asked that before I went through the squadron tasks, because I did a call out particularly for the A2s. Sorry about that. I should have remembered.
Just generally we bring Navy and Air Force into like Air Force goes up to small multi-crew ships, and Navy takes on after into the larger ships. I think we put a like size 2 shield arbitrary mark on there, so ships with size 2s and below are kind of we're gonna work on training for those with Air Force, and above size 2 is generally Navy, but it's all about the training. So, whatever suits the squadron that you want to build. It's when we talk about Air Force, Navy, Rangers, and Marines, now it's going to be like think more about the training and the certs and the academies. So squadrons are focused on role, wings are campaign, combined arms, and just because we have Air Force with some training and Navy with some training, we're going to jump those trainings back and forth as they make sense. We might have the same training for two different things, Air Force and Navy. So don't worry too much about what you're specifically assigned under. That's really more academies and training.
Alright, so I'm gonna cover just two last questions before I really need to put my boy to bed. Number one, if this milsim breakaway turns to be counterproductive, is there an avenue to reverse it? Yes, of course, we can hang in Gera and cut his no, I'm kidding. Obviously, like, we strive to make people happy. If this doesn't make people happy, we'll keep thinking about ways to making people happy. We want to keep our player base engaged and happy. And the last question, can the several Marine squadrons who wish to part ways with hardcore milsim start generating Ranger content? Absolutely. If you already made your decision, if you make it before those 3 to 6 months, just hit me up and we can establish you as a Ranger squadron. No problem. And unless there's something else burning in the chat, I'm gonna leave it here. Oh wait. I said something, someone pinged me in chat. Director, no milsim squadron brings in the instructions. Okay. Perfect. So, X3EFD asks about the perception of is Marines better than Rangers? Is it more elite? Is it less elite? So basically, what's the difference between an elite non-Marines wing and a Marines platoon as far as objective planning goes? So for me, the only difference will be simple. Like, the Marines will have a different method of communication. Imagine a group of players playing Arma 3 versus the Rangers, which will be more of a Call of Duty approach, in which they will just could be as competitive, no more, but will not have these hard structures or communication protocols, and will just, if dropping out 10 Rangers from 10 Super Hornets into an AO is what's more optimal, all driving shotguns because that's the meta gun for the month, that is the kind of Ranger gameplay.
Can I add to?
No.
If you're a commander and you do some light milsim already, like that shouldn't be a problem, but it doesn't, you don't push the milsim out past your squadron. With what Angera's doing, he's making it more kind of into the civilian setting,
Yeah. So,
highly suggest if you really like the wrestling gameplay.
that was a great suggestion, I gotta say. Did he drop out or did I drop out? Wait, let me see if I'm speaking to myself. Can someone say something? Oh boy. Did I drop out?
I can hear you.
Oh shit, okay. I thought you left that cliffhanger, so I didn't know if you dropped out or I dropped out. Okay, so I'm gonna have to cut it now. But this will be on the Twitch, which then I will download and I will upload to YouTube, and I will post as a link for everyone that might have questions to be able to watch it, or whatever the fuck you would else do with the kind of video content that we just generated. I don't know, but there's a lot of freaks out there. So thank you all for your time, your engagement, your questions, and your attendance. And as always, like, hit us up, drop us a line. Don't wait for these to be our point of contact. Like, we don't bite. Just drop a DM to Commander, Wing Commander, Admiral, Fleet Admiral. No problem. And thank you again, because nothing exists without you guys. So take care. Big hugs. And remember, my only regret is not having killed you today.
Last thing too, if you guys have any legit questions regarding wholesome stuff, I know there's a lot of misinformation going around. People kind of giving their own opinions on things, which is fine. But if you want accurate information, please talk to myself. You can talk to Chief Hicks, um, Grim Magnus, um, and so talk to one of them. They'll straighten you up on what the general goal for the Marine division is. Anything else that's not really coming from them, I would just take it with a hefty dose of grain of salt.